Hi guys, today we're going to be doing some Harry Potter recipes from my recipe book. As you can see, I get a different recipe every month with my Wizardry subscription, and we're going to be making some of these amazing things. I've invited Pops along with me because he's an absolute wizard in the kitchen.
I'm happy to be here and hoping we'll have some good cooking.
As an added bonus, at the end of the video, I'm going to be putting a cream pie into his face.
Let's get started. We've got our large mixing bowl, so we've got plenty of room, and we're going to add 475 grams of strong bread flour, which we're going to sieve. This incorporates lots of air and takes out any lumps that may be hiding in our flour. Okay, so that's our strong bread flour sieved, and let's make ourselves a little well for the rest of the ingredients. We're going to add 50 grams of sugar, 1 packet or about 7 grams of yeast, and half a teaspoon of ground cardamom. And now we're going to mix this all up. Combine it nice and evenly. So when we put our wet mixture in, it's nicely combined. We're going to make a well in the bottom of our flour, and we're going to add our lukewarm milk. Also combine our salt and our melted butter. Give this a little bit of a mix, not perfectly, just enough to combine it a little. Now we're going to add 3/4 of our beaten egg, retaining a little bit for egg wash later. And now we're going to mix up until we've got a dough. So what we're going to do is cut some baking paper and put it on a baking tray. We're also going to find an oven-proof dish and grease it up. Then we're going to place it on the tray, leaving room around the outside for our other parts. And now we're all ready for our niffler. Here we have a niffler's body and a niffler's head already on the baking tray, ready to be cooked. It's very important you keep a good distance between the two so they can expand during the cooking process. Now I'm just going to set these aside, and then I'm going to show you how to make one. So I've split my dough into 6 pieces, and this is one piece that I've made into a sausage, and the reason for this is we're now going to split it up into the individual parts of the niffler. Now if you take 2 fingers like that, where it ends, if you pinch off there, so you've got about a golf ball size, that's going to be the head of the niffler, and we'll just set that aside just for a second. Also, what we're going to do is split off 4 little balls for arms and legs of the niffler. Now what I've worked out is if you take your thumbnail and cover it on there and a slight squeeze and then split it off there, that's about the size you need for an arm or a leg. So I'll just take 3 more of those off. Make it into a little ball, and we're going to squish it down and then make it into a teardrop shape. Then I'm going to take a cocktail stick, and with sharp objects, you can do this with a knife or a cocktail stick, but with sharp objects please get adult supervision. And I'm just going to press in and pull back, and it will just separate and become niffler's claw, and the same with the other 3. So I've made a teardrop for the head, and I'm putting in 2 cloves for the eyes. And then once they're in place, then I can shape it a little bit more so it's a little bit more pointy on the face. So with the remaining lump, this is going to be the body of the niffler. Now I'm getting it virtually round, and then I'm placing it down and then just squeezing the edge at the front just a little bit so it's a little bit oval, and that will be ready for the hands and arms. I'm putting the first one here. I'm just making a little score in the dough ball just so that I can attach it. It doesn't have to attach properly. A little bit of butter or just a little bit of water on the back just to moisten it a little bit would help it join. But once they're in, we'll then shape them again, and if we have to rescore the points of the toes, we'll redo it. So now for the arms, we have to come down about halfway down the body and attach them exactly the same way again. A little bit of moisture. I'm using a little bit of butter just to moisten it so it sticks. And the reason we put it halfway down is so that the head sits on top, and we need a gap for the head. And now we have the niffler's body and the niffler's head all ready for baking, and we have to do this 6 times.
The first thing we need to do is get all of the ingredients laid out and ready to make the dough. For the sake of time, I'm going to be using a food processor. However, if you don't have one of these, it can be done in a mixing bowl. First we add the flour, then we add the butter, and this will mix in a lot better if it's already cut into bits, so try and separate it as you put it in. Next we add the sugar, ground hazelnuts, then we add the egg. As you can see, I haven't whisked it because the processor will do that for me. Next we add the spices. Here we've got the cinnamon, the allspice and the ground cardamom. And lastly we add the orange blossom water. I've got the lid on, so now we're going to blend it until it's an even consistency. Once the dough is finished mixing, you need to take it out of the food processor or the mixing bowl, and you need to get it into a nice even ball, like this, before you wrap it into cling film, ready to put into the fridge for 1 hour. While the dough is cooling in the fridge, you need to preheat your oven to 180 degrees. You also need to get a baking tray and put some baking paper onto that, ready for when your cookies are ready to bake. As you can see, I've put a load of flour out on the surface and also on the rolling pin. This is so that it won't stick to the surface. Now we need to be rolling this out to about ½ centimetre, and I just so happen to have a cutting board and also a cheese grater which are about this thickness. So as you'll see in a minute, as I'm rolling it across these 2 heights, this causes it to be the right height of the dough, ready for the cookies, so it's nice and flat and smooth. And if you feel like it's starting to stick, don't worry, just get a little bit more flour and just pop it on. Doesn't matter how much you use. Our next step is actually to cut the shapes out of the dough. We put our shape onto the top and then just press firmly down, and that will make a nice cut all the way round. I'm just doing this with a little bit of the dough right now. That's not going to make a very good shape as it is. So we will then screw that back up, re-roll it, and then cut out another jumper. And we'll keep doing that until we run out of dough. Once we've got all of the jumpers we can possibly do, we then take our baking tray and we lay them all out onto that and pop it into our preheated oven for a further 12 minutes. Once we've cut as many jumpers as we can, we get our baking tray, which has the baking paper on it, and we lay all of the jumpers out, and then we put that into the oven for about 12 minutes. Here are the finished cookies. The decoration you can see is what Pops prepared while these were cooking, and we've basically used a very thin kind of butter based icing which we've used to kind of stick the fondant onto the cookies. We've got a sorting hat, we've got a jumper with a T on it for my name, Tabby, we've got an owl, and then we've also got a golden snitch just down here. I'm not sure that they've come out quite the way the recipe intended, but I'm sure they're going to taste great anyway.
The first thing we need to do to make our spicy love potion is cut up the strawberries. We've also got ginger and black pepper. I've cut up the ginger okay, and the black pepper, the instructions said to use one of these. I decided, no, I'm going to use one of these. So much easier, so much better, so much quicker. So now for the strawberries. Let's get chopping. So that's our strawberries cut. Now we're going to combine the rest of the ingredients together. Owing to the fact our producer ate half the strawberries, we've had to half all the other ingredients. So we're going to put the strawberries straight into a heavy saucepan pan, and then we're going to drop the sugar straight over the top. That does look like a lot of sugar, but these are the recipe instructions. I'm going to drop the water in now and follow it quickly by our cut ginger and our pepper and our citric acid or lemon juice to you and me. And then we're going to give this a quick stir, and then we're going to put it onto our preheated stove. I've got to say, we're about halfway through boiling these strawberries and the ingredients for this drink, and the smell that has entered this kitchen is just outstanding. We've got strawberries and ginger and caramel, and it's just, oh, it's divine. I can't wait to taste this, and it's starting to look really, really nice. I'm concerned that this might turn into a jelly or a preserve, so to speed this up a little bit, what I'm going to do, I'm going to blend it with one of these. I'm still going to sieve it to get rid of the seeds and any pulp that's left over. I just believe it will cook a little bit faster so that I can finish earlier to stop it turning into a jam. We've done a little jam test that my mum does when she makes jam, which is put a teaspoon or two on a cold plate and see what happens. You can see it's kind of wrinkling up in front of the spoon as I push it about, and that means when it's cold it's going to set like jam. So we're going to have to add some more water just to liquefy it a little bit and keep it a syrup. If you want to pour it in, I'll keep stirring it and just keep going till I say.
Now we're going to try some of these recipes, and first up we have the fantastic bread.
The niffler. So what we find when we open it up is we've got beautiful big bubbles inside. It's nice and soft and flaky, and it's got a lovely smell. And I really, really like this. This is looking good, but it's all about the taste. That really holds up. That's got a lovely taste to it. That's a new recipe for me. I'm keeping that one.
This was great fun for me. This is the first time that I've made bread at home, and it was actually a really fun experience, and the bread itself is fantastic quality.
Here we got our jumper cookies. They didn't quite turn out the way we wanted them to, but the actual cookies themselves did turn out okay. It was more the decoration that was the problem. It's almost impossible to do.
We didn't really have all the equipment that we necessarily needed in order to be able to do the exact way that they wanted us to thread the fondant in order to make the pattern, which is why we've ended up with this very flat red on the top of it. 3, 2, 1. These cookies actually turned out pretty well, considering we weren't able to make them quite the way that we wanted to. They had a really nice sort of crunch, hardness to them. There was a really nice seasoning flavour to the cookie itself. And the combination of sherbet icing with coloured fondant made a really sweet but complimentary flavour to go on top. Thumbs up Geek Gear. So far, both of these have been really good. So the next one that we made was the spicy love potion. And we were quite worried about how it was going to turn out because during the cooking process it was getting quite thick. We were worried it would turn into a sort of jelly or a jam. This is probably the recipe which we're most proud of because it took a lot of new skills. It was a very different kind of cooking. Bottoms up. 3, 2, 1. It's actually a syrup which we've added water to in order to make a kind of squash. And it's kind of like strawberry squash, except it's got like a spiciness seasoning to it.
That'd be the ginger and the pepper. If you make this yourself, I recommend you use half the amount of ginger it says in the recipe.
The pepper adds a really good kick to it as well.
That's nice.
So good. And perfect for summer as well. This is the right time of year to be having this. As promised, I am now going to be putting this pie into his face. In 3, 1. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Thanks for watching and keep cooking.
Alright, super. Let's do it. Okay, go again. Back to it. Why are you laughing?
Where are you going? What's wrong with you?
This is like giggle juice.